It started with a laugh. Not just any laugh, the kind that cuts. The kind you recognize instantly as something other than joy. Julia held up her phone, screen angled toward me, displaying a photo of her and a man I didn't recognize, arms tangled, cheeks pressed close. The sunlight behind them glowed like they were characters in some dreamy ad. The caption read, "Weekend recharge." She giggled like it was the punchline to an inside joke. "Don't freak out," she said, tapping the screen. "It's just Cam. We got cozy for the pic. I thought it'd make you a little jealous." I didn't say anything right away, just stared at the image. My wife, nestled against another man like she belonged there. "Oh, come on," she added with that smug, teasing tilt of her head. "I thought you'd get a kick out of it. There are moments in life that split time in two. This was one of them. You're showing me this. Why?" I asked, voice steady, but something inside me curled tight. Julia shrugged, poking at her salad like the world hadn't just shifted under our feet. "I don't know. You've been so calm lately. I figured a little emotional nudge wouldn't hurt." That word, nudge, landed like a slap. "You mean manipulation?" Her eyes finally met mine, and for a split second, something flickered. "Regret? No, just calculation. It's harmless," she said. "You used to get fired up. You used to care." Care. That word stung. I cared more than I could ever show, which was precisely the problem. I looked at her, this woman I'd married 6 years ago under the promise of honesty, and all I could see now is theater. She wanted to poke the bear just to feel something. I set down my fork, appetite vanishing. "So this trip, was it just pictures? Or more?" "Don't be dramatic." She rolled her eyes, as if that settled it. "It's not like we hooked up. It was just a vibe. Harmless fun." "A vibe," I repeated, chewing the words like glass. I could have flipped the table, could have yelled, demanded the truth, walked out in a storm of rage. But that's not who I am. No, my revenge would be quieter. I leaned back in my chair and smiled like a man who'd finally stopped hoping. "You know what's funny, Jules? You always think you're 5 steps ahead, but I've been watching the board a lot longer than you think." She blinked, momentarily unsure. That was my answer. After dinner, I washed the dishes like I always did. She scrolled through Instagram, laughing at stories, oblivious to the fact that she'd just handed me everything I needed. That night, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing, slow and even, sounded like the rhythm of someone entirely unbothered. I used to think love was sacrifice, that you give your all and wait to be chosen back. But love isn't blind. It's observant. And I'd seen enough. My name is Nate. I'm 34. I run a home renovation business in Charleston, South Carolina. Solid, reliable work. Nothing flashy. I keep my boots clean, my books balanced, and my promises kept. Julia used to say that was what she loved about me. But now, it seems she needs chaos to feel alive. And me? I've made a decision. I'll show her exactly what it means to underestimate a man who smiles while building his own exit. This was the beginning of her undoing, but not in the way she expects. She didn't notice when I stopped saving the Wi-Fi password, or when I unlinked our calendar. It was all subtle, calculated, like removing bricks from a wall one at a time. Quiet, methodical. I didn't even pack a bag the night I left. Just grabbed my laptop, toothbrush, and the spare key to Ben's place. Ben, my best friend since high school, was overseas for a 6-month engineering contract in Helsinki. Before he left, he tossed me a set of keys to his guest house. "Just in case," he'd said. I remember laughing, saying I'd never need it. Funny how life works. That night, Julia was on the couch, half watching a dating show while texting someone, probably Cam. Her screen lit up every few seconds with a new message, and her smile had this lazy arrogance. She didn't even glance up when I said I was heading out for a walk. I didn't come back. Ben's guest house sat behind his main property, a cozy little converted garage with hardwood floors and a skylight above the bed. It smelled faintly like cedar and aftershave, probably the last trace of him before he left. I dropped my keys on the counter, plugged in my phone, and for the first time in weeks, took a deep breath that didn't feel borrowed. No questions, no games, just quiet. That first morning in the guest house, I woke early. The sunlight filtered in through the trees, brushing the room in gold. I made coffee in silence, watching the steam rise like a slow exhale from the chaos I'd left behind. I didn't text her, didn't leave a note. That was the point. Let her feel it, not all at once, but in waves. The silence, the stillness, the empty space where my presence used to fill in all the gaps. Back at the house, she'd probably assume I was out running errands or working late. I gave her just enough to stay confused. My toothbrush missing? Maybe she hadn't noticed yet. The drawer with my socks? Empty, but subtle. My work boots gone. She never paid attention to those things anyway. What I didn't do was block her. That would have been too loud. No, I stayed visible. Online, but absent. Let her type out messages and wonder why I hadn't read them. Let the greened up beside my name taunt her more than any angry rant ever could. I wasn't being cruel. I was being precise. By the second day, she called once, then twice. I ignored them both. She followed up with a text. Hey, everything okay? You've been MIA. I stared at the screen for a long time, then set it face down. She didn't get to ask questions now. Not after turning our marriage into a mood ring she could flash around for effect. I wasn't running. I was gathering. Time, space, clarity, and something else. Evidence. Because soon, this wouldn't just be about silence. It would be about truth. But for now, I sat in that little guest house with my coffee and my stillness and allowed myself to breathe. The man who left our home wasn't broken. He was sharpening. And Julia? She just hadn't realized yet. She was already losing. I didn't ghost her. I just let the silence stretch. Not enough to panic her. Just enough to make her feel the slack in the line. A few messages came through over the next couple of days, most of them breezy attempts at casual concern. Hey, weird week. Hope you're okay. Let me know when you're home. I want to show you something hilarious. I read them all. Never responded. By day 4, the tone started to shift. Her latest message landed at 11:12 p.m. Are you mad about the cam thing? It was just a joke, Nate. Seriously, that was the first real crack in the surface. And I screenshotted it. It was a small thing, just text. But context would make it sharp later. I created a folder on my phone, J Archives. Every message, every voice note, every passive-aggressive meme she sent me went in there. I wasn't just disappearing. I was documenting. When I said I'd stop reacting and start responding, this is what I meant. The beauty of it was how much she gave me without knowing. Julia always had a flair for theatrical honesty. Half-truths wrapped in sarcasm. Brags disguised as jokes. A kind of confession through performance. That's what made her dangerous. And that's what made her easy to catch. The next week, she posted a boomerang on Instagram. Her clinking glasses with coworkers at what looked like a cabin party. One of the comments said, "Wish Cam and I were back in that hot tub already." Julia replied with a winking emoji and a fire. Screenshot. Another DM came through that same night. I miss your steadiness. This is the longest we've ever gone without talking. I hate how this feels. I saved that one too. It was strange, watching her unravel from a distance. Like seeing a storm brew over the ocean from a mountain window. I wasn't soaked by it anymore. I was just recording the lightning. At Ben's guest house, I kept the lights low. Cooked my own meals. Started journaling, of all things. Not to vent, but to structure the narrative. Who she was becoming. Who I was turning into. Each day, her messages grew more elaborate. Nostalgia-laced stories. Remember when we drove to Asheville in the rain and sang like idiots? Or, I still wear your hoodie sometimes. Don't laugh. I didn't laugh. I documented. Because this wasn't about nostalgia. It was about building a digital scrapbook of cruelty, evidence wrapped in sentiment. One day, she sent a photo of a bouquet. The caption read, "Cam dropped this at work. Told me I light up a room. Can you believe him?" Followed by a laughing face. She wanted to get a rise out of me. I gave her nothing. But I saved everything. There was power in that silence. Power in being present, but unreachable. She didn't know where I was. And yet she kept performing for me like I was still sitting across from her every night. Maybe part of her wanted me to say, "I'm hurt." But what hurt more was me not saying anything at all. She hadn't realized it yet. But every word she gave me was another stitch in the net. I wasn't chasing the truth anymore. I was building a case. And when it was done, I wouldn't need to raise my voice. I'd let her own voice speak loud enough for both of us. I wasn't expecting the email. Honestly, I'd almost forgotten I was still linked to the shared inbox we once used for wedding vendors and vacation planning. We hadn't used it in ages, and I only kept it open out of habit. It came in at 3:14 p.m. on a Tuesday. The subject line was innocent enough. Just see you soon. Sent from someone named C. Rollins. I hovered over it. already feeling the familiar tension creep in. I clicked. Inside was a single sentence. Let's not waste time this round. Bring the wine, lose the clothes. And then below, a familiar name, Julia Whitmore. The worst part? The timestamp. It was dated from 3 weeks ago, right in the middle of one of our marriage counseling sessions. I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking at the end of the sentence like it was waiting for me to reply. That's when it hit me. Not rage, not heartbreak. Clarity. I didn't need to guess anymore. I didn't need to interpret emojis or decode flirtation disguised as jokes. There it was. Plain, direct, undeniable. While I was sitting in a therapist's office, trying to understand where we'd gone wrong, she was lining up a secret rendezvous. With Cam, the same man from the photo she'd waved in my face like it was harmless. Validation fantasy masked as casual disobedience. Well, now I had more than screenshots of subtle digs and poetic betrayals. I had something that bled truth through the screen, something she could never talk her way around. And strangely, I didn't feel like confronting her. I felt ready. That email wasn't a shock. It was confirmation. The final puzzle piece clicking into place, like discovering the weapon in a mystery novel that you always suspected was hidden in plain sight. She had weaponized trust, romanticized recklessness, wrapped betrayal in winks and wine, and I had just caught her red-handed. I forwarded the email to myself, then took a screenshot and added it to the J archives. But this one I printed. Old school, tangible, held it in my hand like a relic from a world I no longer lived in. That night, I laid it flat on the desk beside my wedding photo. The contrast stung in the most poetic way. There we were, me in a navy suit, Julia in her champagne dress, wind brushing her veil against my cheek. We looked like two people who believed in something. And beside it, the evidence that she didn't anymore. I didn't cry, didn't shout. I just stared at both images for a while, what we were and what we become, and let the silence between those two realities tell the story for me. That night, I slept easier than I had in months. Because finally, the mask was off. And the game just officially changed. I never meant to involve her parents. At least, not in the beginning. But something shifted when I saw the way Julia posted her birthday brunch invitation online. Bright pastel graphics, a cascade of heart emojis. The caption, "Can't wait to celebrate with the people who know me best." That phrase stuck. The people who know me best. Did they? Really? Did her mother, who once cried when I surprised Julia with a handwritten vow book, know that her daughter had been coordinating romantic weekends behind my back while I was pouring everything I had into saving what we built? Did her friends, those wine-glass-toting bridesmaids who toasted to our forever in matching robes, know she was texting Cam's steamy invitations the same day she nodded through therapy, swearing she wanted to work things out? No, they didn't know, but they were about to. I didn't write a letter. No dramatic manifesto. Just a single photo, one of our wedding pictures, printed on thick matte paper. I chose a specific one, the moment right after our first kiss, just before we turned to face the crowd. We looked peaceful, timeless, like the kind of couple people rooted for. On the back, I used clear tape to affix a printed copy of that email. I didn't include names. Didn't need to. Anyone who knew our timeline, who knew we were still attending marriage counseling that month, would understand the betrayal without me spelling it out. There was no return address, no signature, just a thin envelope, clean and deliberate. I mailed one to her parents, another to her younger sister, one to her college best friend, Miranda, who still called me the quiet one, but always smiled when I fixed her leaky kitchen sink without being asked. And I sent the last one to her mentor at work, Sandra, who once pulled me aside and said, "You're good for her, Nate. You slow her down in the best way." I dropped the envelopes at different mailboxes across town over 2 days. Spread it out. Made it clean. And just like that, the fuse was lit. I didn't go back to the guest house immediately after the last drop. Instead, I sat in my truck, engine off, and watched the horizon fold into evening. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't proud. I wasn't anything, really. Just resolved. This wasn't rage. This was recognition. I had tried to keep our story quiet, to fix it behind closed doors, to shield her from shame even after the cracks started showing. But she brought the performance to the public. So now the truth would follow. That night, she texted again. "Still thinking about you. Still us." I didn't respond. She had spent so long crafting her fantasy, how I was the safe option, the steady background character in her validation movie. And Cam? He was the twist she thought she could narrate into a harmless subplot. But now, the audience she'd carefully curated would read a different script, and it would hit just before brunch. I pictured the moment, napkins folded, candles lit, soft jazz playing in the background, right as her mother opened that envelope. It wasn't revenge. It was context. For once, her story wouldn't be the only one told. It came in as a voicemail, quiet, almost hesitant. I didn't recognize the number at first. Thought maybe it was one of my clients following up on an estimate. I let it ring out. When I finally listened, I had to sit down. "Hey, Nate, it's Bill, Julia's dad." His voice cracked, just enough to tell me this wasn't the kind of call he ever imagined making. "I got something in the mail. So did Ellen. We saw what you sent." A pause. "You didn't sign it, but you didn't have to." Another pause, longer this time. I want you to know I'm sorry." That caught me off guard. Not because I expected him to defend her, but because he sounded like he'd been punched in the gut. "I know I'm not the one who made the decisions that hurt you," he said, "but I raised the one who did. And that carries some weight I can't shake off right now." His breathing was shallow. I could hear the slight rustle of paper in the background, like maybe he still had the photo in his hand. We had no idea she was capable of being so cold. "We thought the counseling meant something, that you two were finding your way back." Another silence, the kind that fills the space when a man is trying to figure out how much of what he believed was a lie. "We're embarrassed," he finally said, "and heartbroken." I sat there, unmoving, the phone still pressed to my ear even after the message ended. Bill Whitmore was not the emotional type. The first time we met, he shook my hand and said, "Just take care of her." No fanfare, no warm welcome. Just that, firm, stoic, simple. For him to call and say he felt ashamed, that meant something. It meant she was losing more than just me. She was losing the audience. A few hours later, he called again. This time, I picked up. "Hi, Nate," he said, voice lower than before. "I hope I'm not crossing a line." "You're not," I said. Another pause. "I don't know what to say that could fix any of this," he admitted. "But I wanted you to hear it from me. What she did was wrong, and we don't support it." He cleared his throat, then added, "If you ever need anything from us, I want you to know you've still got people on your side." That almost got me, because I wasn't expecting grace from her family. Pity, maybe. Silence, most likely. But this felt like something rare, something honest. "I appreciate it," I said simply. "No need to respond to anything," he said. "Just, no, we're sorry." When we hung up, I stared out the window of the guest house for a long time. Not out of satisfaction. This wasn't a win. It was something deeper than that. Validation, maybe. Proof that I hadn't imagined it all. That someone else, someone close to her, saw the cracks too. And not just saw them, called them what they were. It was almost impressive, the speed with which she pivoted. 2 days after her birthday brunch imploded, after her father's voicemail, after the silence from friends she used to gossip with, Julia resurfaced online with a full-blown rebrand. "Sometimes life hands you clarity through fire," she posted, her photo awash in soft pink tones, face angled just enough to catch the light. "This week hurt, but growth always does." The caption ended with a link. "Live self-love workshop, this Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me. Let's reclaim our worth." I watched the announcement from Ben's guest house, sipping coffee and scrolling through the comments. Dozens of heart emojis, clapping hands, the usual Instagram applause. It was such a Julia move, remake the story, reframe the shame. If she couldn't erase the damage, she'd romanticize it. Transform the mess into a movement. The header image for the workshop was a shot of her at sunrise, yoga mat under one arm, city skyline behind her. A Phoenix narrative in influencer packaging. And yet, I clicked, remind me, not because I cared what she had to say, but because I knew how much she needed to be watched. Sunday arrived. The screen flickered to life at exactly 5. There she was, perched in front of a window with perfect lighting, wearing soft beige and that practiced vulnerable expression. Her voice was calm, laced with that performative warmth she used when she wanted people to think she was healing. "Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. And if you're here, it's probably because something in your life cracked recently too." She went on about betrayal, not hers, of course. She was the one who'd been disrespected, who ignored her own boundaries to keep others comfortable. Her words floated between poetic vagueness and weaponized wisdom. She spoke about emotional resilience and releasing the opinions of those who never understood your journey. I almost laughed. But then came the twist. In the live comment thread, just as she was discussing radical honesty in romantic relationships, a new name popped up. Camroll 88. At first, I thought it couldn't be him. Too bold. But then he commented, radical honesty? Like that weekend in Asheville while your husband was at therapy? The stream paused for a split second. Only someone really paying attention would have noticed the flicker in her expression. A small inhale. A twitch at the corner of her mouth. Then she continued. But the comments kept rolling. Didn't you say you were single when we were in the cabin? Still got your hoodie, by the way. Her carefully built world unraveled in real time. You could see it, the way her voice started to falter. She tried to pivot, tried to play it off like trolls were inevitable. Sometimes people from your past want to hold you to the version of you they remember, she said. But it was too late. The chat had turned. Her followers, once loyal and soft-hearted, were asking questions now. Wait, were you married during all that? This is starting to feel fake. Is Kim your ex or something? What's going on here? She ended the stream early. No closing mantra. No soft thank you. Just a frozen smile, and then darkness. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling for a while. Not because I felt victorious, but because I didn't have to lift a single finger. She did it all herself. The only thing worse than being exposed is being exposed by the very fantasy you tried to sell. And in that moment, Julia wasn't an icon of empowerment. She was just a woman, trapped by the script she wrote, and suddenly out of lines. It didn't take long. 3 days after her seminar fell apart, Julia tried to rewrite the script one more time, only this time, she aimed it squarely at me. I got the first hint when a message popped up from a mutual acquaintance. Hey man, just saw Julia's post. What's going on? I tapped the link. There it was. A long caption on her feed, paired with a black and white selfie where she looked just tired enough to seem sympathetic. The caption started soft, words like healing, boundaries, emotional manipulation. Then it hardened. Unfortunately, not everyone supports your growth. Sometimes, when you stop playing small, people retaliate. They twist your kindness, your vulnerability, and turn it into something ugly. I've been dealing with targeted harassment and digital intimidation from someone I once trusted. I won't name him. He knows who he is. The comments were exactly what she wanted. Stay strong, queen. Ugh, men can't handle powerful women. Sending you light. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. Not out of anger, out of respect. Because this was Julia's last real move. If she couldn't win by charm or pity, she'd win by flipping the narrative. Paint herself as the wounded one. Make me the villain. Victimhood was the final costume in her closet, and she wore it well. But what she didn't realize, I'd already anticipated this. Within an hour, I got an email from the platform's moderation team. A report has been filed against your account regarding targeted harassment. Please respond with any relevant context or documentation. I didn't panic. I opened my archive. Over the past 3 weeks, I'd saved everything: texts, timestamps, screen recordings of her story posts, a full digital timeline matching every passive-aggressive dig to the moment she tried to play the martyr. I packaged it neatly, labeled folders, date-sorted files, brief annotations for clarity. No commentary, no accusations, just facts. And I sent it off. 12 hours later, I got the follow-up. After reviewing the documentation provided, we find no grounds to support the harassment claim. Your account will remain in good standing. No further action required. I didn't smile. I didn't feel the need to tell anyone. Because that wasn't the point. This wasn't about winning a social media argument or defending myself to strangers who'd never met me. This was about keeping my integrity intact while her performance collapsed under its own weight. Later that evening, I noticed she turned the comments off on that post. Then, quietly, she deleted it. Like it never happened. No apology. No explanation. Just erasure. That's when it became clear. Julia didn't know how to exist without control. When her words stopped working, when her carefully filtered versions of the truth stopped shielding her, she unraveled. She had always believed she was smarter, that her charm would cover her tracks, that if she said it first, her version would be the one people believed. But truth? It doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand long enough for the dust to settle. And once it did, there was only one story left, and it wasn't hers. The unraveling wasn't dramatic. It was slow, quiet, like frost spreading across glass. Julia didn't disappear overnight. She lingered online for a while, posting cryptic quotes and recycled affirmations, The kind that try to sound wise but land hollow when everyone's already seen what's underneath. One by one, the likes started thinning out. The comments turned hesitant, then suspicious, then silent. Her loyal ones, those brunch circle girls and former coworkers who used to flood her feed with hearts and "you got this" energy, stopped showing up. She tried tagging them. They stopped resharing. A few unfollowed. And then, finally, she locked her account. That's when I knew it was time. I hadn't spoken publicly once since I left the house. I let her do the talking, let her wear the spotlight and feel the heat of it. But silence, when stretched too far, becomes a question. People start filling in blanks. And I was done letting someone else hold the pen. So I set up my phone in the guest house, nothing fancy, no edits or overlays. Just me, sitting on the worn leather armchair with a single lamp behind me. I hit record. Hey, I started, voice even. I haven't said anything up until now because I didn't feel the need to defend myself. I figured the truth would take care of itself. A beat. But I've gotten some messages lately from people who knew us, from people who've seen pieces of the story online, and I realized it's not about setting the record straight for them. It's about doing it for me. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. My name's Nate. I was married for 6 years. I believed in that marriage. I fought for it, even when it got hard. And I stayed loyal, even when the other side didn't. A pause. I don't need to name names or post receipts. The people who need to know already know. I sat back. Let that settle. Here's the thing no one tells you. Sometimes, closure doesn't come wrapped in answers. Sometimes it comes when you stop explaining yourself to people who never asked the right questions. I looked at the camera, steady. I forgive her. Those 3 words carried more weight than I expected. Saying them didn't feel weak. It felt like reclaiming something that had been borrowed for too long. But I won't forget myself again. A quiet moment passed. Then I added, if you're watching this and you've been through something similar, if someone turned your kindness into currency or tried to rewrite your story without you, just know you're not alone. And you're not crazy. The camera stayed on me for a second longer before I ended the video. No hashtags. No edits. Just raw honesty. I posted it and didn't check the comments for hours. When I finally did, they weren't full of fire or fury. They were quiet, respectful. This hit hard. That last line, wow. I needed this more than I knew. And scattered throughout were messages from people who'd known both of us, mutual friends, acquaintances, even one of her old coworkers. You handled this with more grace than most would. That wasn't the goal, but it was the result. I wasn't interested in destroying Julia. I just needed to stop disappearing in her story. And now, for the first time in months, I finally felt visible again. It was a Tuesday. Gray light outside, that kind of stillness before a storm. I had just finished sanding down a windowsill in the guest house, just clinging to my knuckles when I heard the knock. Not urgent, not loud, just hopeful. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. There she stood, Julia. Not camera-ready Julia. Not seminar host Julia. Just her. Barefaced except for the streaks of mascara that had run halfway down her cheeks and dried there. Her coat was buttoned wrong, one side higher than the other. Her hands clutched a white envelope so tightly the edges had bent. She didn't say anything at first. Neither did I. She just looked at me like she was hoping the quiet between us might rewind time. Then she held out the envelope, her hand trembling ever so slightly. I wrote it out, because I knew I'd mess it up if I tried to say it. I took it, held it lightly, like something delicate but too worn to save. I didn't come here to fight, she said, voice hoarse. I needed to give you this. I looked at the envelope. No name on the front. Just smudged ink and a faint perfume that used to mean home. Should I read it now? I asked. She nodded. I was never leaving mine. I opened it slowly, unfolded the letter inside. Her handwriting, familiar curves and nervous crossouts. I read it silently. She waited. Nate, you didn't deserve to be the experiment. That's what this was. I can finally say it now. I wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to chase something that made me feel alive again. And instead of dealing with my emptiness, I built a game around it. You were the safety net I kept jumping from. You never signed up to be the ground I landed on or the one I walked away from. I told myself lies to justify things. Like that we were already drifting. Like maybe you'd be fine. But you weren't. And I see that now. You didn't scream. You didn't post revenge. You just left, and somehow, that cut deeper than anything else could have. I've lost so much. I don't expect you to fix it. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I needed you to know, You mattered more than I ever showed you. She looked up when I finished. Her eyes searched mine for a lifeline. You mattered, she repeated aloud, her voice barely more than a whisper. For a long time, I said nothing. Then I stepped back into the house, reached for the lighter on the counter, and without looking at her, set the edge of the letter aflame. She gasped, half-stepping forward. Nate. But I didn't let her finish. I watched the flame curl the paper inward, blackening her words into silence, until nothing remained but ash in my palm. Then I looked her dead in the eye and said, Experiments end. I'm the result. Her face folded, first confusion, then pain, then something close to understanding. I stepped back inside without another word and gently, deliberately, closed the door. No slam, no rage, just the sound of finality. And outside, the storm finally broke. I didn't watch her walk away. I didn't need to. When the door clicked shut behind me, it wasn't just the sound of separation, it was the sound of reclamation. A line drawn inward in silence. And on the other side of that line, for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath. That night, I didn't replay her words. I didn't dissect the apology or wonder what she hoped I'd say, because that apology wasn't for me. It was her final attempt to be seen by the man who had already left the room long before the door physically closed. I slept soundly. No dreams. No tightness in my chest. Just rest. The next morning, I walked out onto the little porch behind Ben's guest house. Coffee in hand, the kind I ground fresh that morning, slow, deliberate, like everything else in my life now. The trees were full and green, swaying with the wind but rooted. I understood that feeling more now. A few weeks ago, I would have told you I was numb, that revenge was the only thing keeping me moving. But it wasn't revenge, not really. It was recognition of who I had become by staying too long in a room where I was constantly being tested, measured, and found dull by someone who never understood quiet strength. Julia didn't break me. She revealed me. Every day I spent in silence wasn't weakness. It was rebuilding. Beneath the stillness, I was tightening screws, drawing blueprints, framing new walls inside my mind. And now? Now I'm building something else entirely. Not a house, not a marriage. Just a life. I reached out to Ben. He offered to sell me the guest house at cost. Said he'd rather it go to someone who used it for peace, not parties. I said yes. I started putting shelves up last weekend. Got a new welcome mat. Doesn't say, bless this mess. Just home. Julia hasn't reached out since the letter. And I haven't looked her up. Sometimes healing looks like strength. Other times, it just looks like finally choosing yourself. I don't hate her. I don't miss her. I just don't orbit around her anymore. And that, right there, is freedom. People still ask what happened. Some in whispers. Others blunt. Dude, how did you stay so calm through all that? And the truth is, I wasn't calm. I was precise. I knew if I shouted, she'd get to paint me angry. If I cried, she'd say I was fragile. But if I let her speak loud enough, long enough, she'd show everyone who she really was. And when that happened, all I had to do was stand still. So now, I'm here, 34. Not married. Not bitter. Just clear. My name's Nate. And sometimes, being the result of someone else's bad experiment is the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because you get to choose how the next chapter begins. And this time, I'm writing it from page 1. Thank you for staying with this journey to its final breath. If this story stirred something in you, drop a comment. Share your own quiet comeback. And if you're still holding on to someone else's fire, maybe today's the day you let it burn out. Because you deserve to be the result, not the wreckage.